Hello, welcome to the Daily Bible Podcast. My name is William Hemsworth. Thank you so much for joining me for today's show. Well, I guess the good news is I'm back behind the mic today, so we got some music and all that good stuff today. Anyway, we're continuing on in Matthew chapter 22. We're going to finish off Jesus' conversation with the Pharisees and the Herodians in regarding to paying the imperial tax to Caesar. So we're going to look at Matthew chapter 22, verses 20 through 22 today. Those verses say, "And he asked them, 'Whose image is this, and whose inscription?' 'Caesar's,' they replied. Then he said to them, 'So give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's.' When they heard this, they were amazed. So they left him and went away." So just as a recap, in case you've missed the last couple days on the podcast here, the Pharisees and the Herodians kind of put their differences aside and decided they were going to try to entrap Jesus regarding paying the imperial tax to Caesar. And just as background, the Pharisees were totally against Roman occupation, thus were totally opposed to this imperial tax. The Herodians, on the other hand, were cool with Roman occupation and thus were okay with paying the temple tax, the imperial tax rather. And so they were trying to trap Jesus, because if he answered one way or another, he was going to be wrong with one of these two groups. Well, Jesus takes a totally different stance here. And he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's. So it's kind of very interesting here. And some may think that by saying this, Jesus is saying he's prohibiting, form of a tribute to the state or taxes, if you will. But that's not the case. It's more probable that Jesus is endorsing some kind of taxes here. Obviously, taxes were something of that time that were still done. They had the temple tax for the upkeep of the temple and all that as well. The issue at the time was that taxes were abusive. Tax collectors were taking more than what was needed to line their own pockets, so it was abused. So it isn't that Jesus was totally opposed to paying some kind of taxes or anything. That's not the case at all. What he is saying, though, is now, on the other hand, if the state is totally opposed to things that are godly, and we have a choice to make between doing the good deed for God or paying or doing the good deed for the state, we always need to choose on the side of God. Always, without question. Now, a lot of times that's difficult, especially in today's environment when there's some laws that are passed that we may not agree with on a moral level. But we still need to use and exercise that judgment. So here, like I said, he avoids taking sides on this question. And Jesus raises the debate to a whole new level. These two groups were kind of being hypocritical about this tax question in respect to its relation to the law of God. So the law of God, we should be concerned more with the law of God, repaying God for what he is due, our love, our affection, with what others are due. So God is the priority. Needs to be made the priority. That's what Jesus is getting at in these passages. So thank you for joining me on today's show of the Daily Bible Podcast. Thank you for joining me each and every day. Please visit my website at williamhemsworth.com. God bless you all, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Have a great day.